Y'all need to run that part back. Just go ahead and run that back, because those were more than a few words. Like, and I'll tell you, Fawn, like being at the lake house. So Fawn and Keith invited me and my husband to their lake house in January. And I told you this before, and I'll tell you this again. The lake house and coming to the lake house with y'all for 5 days changed my life. It was an interruption of the chaos that I was dealing with. But beyond that, it was a God assignment that allowed me, like, I felt peace. And how you all poured into me, how you all, like, who you just are, and watching that for me was a possibility model. So it was, I feel like it was life-changing in ways I'm still processing, but I'm sure about one of the two ways. And then one of the nights while we were there, you and I were talking about your book, Love and Whiskey, which is now out in bookstores everywhere. Y'all go grab it. And we end up talking till 4 o'clock in the morning about your book.
Yeah. And you had ideas while we're just flowing. Like your ideas were just flowing in relation to my book. And it was so natural. That is clearly a gift of yours. And so I wanted to just lean into that gift, because I think sometimes when we are gifted at something that comes so natural to us, we take it for granted a little bit, right? So even when I think about when I first started my company and the way that I'm looking at press is completely different than everybody else. I'm looking at what's more so product integration and product placement and bringing the product to where the press is already going to be. That to me was natural. To the people around me, that was revolutionary. It didn't mean that they weren't very smart. It didn't mean that they didn't know how to do what they knew how to do and that they were the best at what they did. But they simply didn't have my gift. And so that night, listening to you and just your different ideas with relation to my book, I already knew how I was going to market my book. But you added layers and elements to that neither my team nor I would have ever thought of. And there was great value in that. But also, I looked at it and said, so how are you going to make this information available to other people? Because I get that you do it with ease, but this is of great value to other people.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I mean, I started the Book Academy and you were like, so I'm your client. And I was like, I wasn't pitching you to be my client. You was like, so I'm your client.
Yeah.
And I deeply appreciated that, because in my rebuilding this moment this last year, one of the things that I've been trying to be obedient to, like you said, is like God's assignment. And I really do feel like the Book Academy is one of God's assignment for me. For you, as you wrote Love and Whiskey, and watching how you are even talking about the purpose of the book, talking about the story of Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, and just being on the Love and Whiskey Avengers team, I've also learned a tremendous amount. But number one, the championing that you've been doing of me is something so meaningful to me that I am just so grateful for. So grateful for.
Well, and it's so funny because you and I, we're so different in our worldview, right? Our outlook. And I think this is the part that people miss, is that we like to surround ourselves with people that are exactly like-minded. And that's not what Jesus did.
Yeah.
Like there is aspects of us that are like very, very, very like-minded. But our worldviews are so incredibly different. And I have such an enormous amount of respect for your worldview, even when your worldview counters mine. That doesn't matter. We are both operating in our purpose. And so we get so frustrated when people don't think like us. We want to change them. We want to convince them. And no. God allowed us to have different experiences, to have different worldviews for a reason. And I honor that. And so I champion any person who I believe is operating in God's will for their lives. I don't have to be in complete agreement with the way that they see the world. I only have to know that they're operating God's will for their life. For me to be like, tell me what you need from me.